Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching the Patreon bonus stories. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Yes.
All right, our first story, this is just kind of hilarious. I had to include this. This is the Buick Enclave, and this is their new idea of how they're going to be innovative at Buick.
Yep.
Check it out. What do you think?
This is...
Huh? Innovation.
Oh my God.
American innovation.
I can't believe, like, you got to enter in all this crap using, like, a crappy interface. And then...
Yeah, but when you're done, you still got to get out of the
Then you
car
have
and
to
pump
get-
the gas.
Like, what the... How, like... They're like, how can we make pumping gas more attractive to our customers?
I think the meeting went something like this. Hey, you know, the Tesla supercharging network is really easy. We need to come up with something very easy,
How can we make it more easy? Oh, I've got an idea. How will we make it more complicated? Could we make it a little bit more complicated?
Good idea.
I was thinking maybe you could do all the stuff that you do outside, but you do it in your car.
Awesome.
Could you do it that way?
That's a very good idea.
I can't, honestly, like, I so want to make a Tesla, like, just like a commercial that would come on right afterward, where it's just the guy, he gets to the supercharger, he gets out of the car, he just plugs it in, and then he just walks away.
Right.
That's how easy it is.
I know.
Like, are you kidding me?
There's no credit cards, there's no
credit cards,
numbers.
like, and they could figure something out. I'm like, let's be real. You know?
Oh, probably.
Of like, oh, we've incorporated a special chip in our cars, and it'll read when you put the thing into the pump, and then it's connected to your... I mean, it's already
Or how about this
so
for an idea?
complicated.
Back in the early days of gas cars, people worked at the gas station, put the gas in your car for you, and, you know, washed your windshield.
Right.
They could do that. You know why they're not gonna?
Because they...
It costs a little more. They don't care about you.
And they don't have those margins anymore.
No,
like, they
don't.
can't... You can't
I know,
just
they
be
make
like
3 cents a gallon or
it's
something.
insane. And yeah, there's no way 3 cents is not worth as much
Well, you know
as
what's
it used
sad
to be.
is that the station's only making like 3 cents a gallon.
Right.
The oil companies are making
Making
plenty.
a ton of money.
All right, this next story is about this set of islands, the Gilbert Islands, and it's pronounced, I thought it was Kiribati, but it's Kiribati. Basically, which is how you translate Gilbert into their native language. The Gilbert Islands were taken over by the British under colonial rule, and I guess the poor people had to then learn how to say everything in English.
I see. Great.
But anyway, these are 33 islands. They stretch over 1.3 million square miles of the sea. And so, in fact, this is the largest nation, one of the largest nations by sea area, but one of the smallest nations by land area. It's only 110,000 residents, but still, that's a lot of people, right? Well, so get this, Jesse. Their average sea height above sea level is 6 feet.
Oh, so about as tall as me.
About as tall as you.
Okay.
And so that means as sea level rises, their country disappears.
Right. Okay. So, I mean,
So get
they
this.
have like a few hundred years or something like that?
By 2050,
Yeah.
30 to 80% of their countries, because each one's on different islands, will be gone.
Oh, okay. So are these people all starting to pack up and move, or are they
In fact, the
pushing for-
latest government is basically in denial and doesn't want to face it. So they're basically like, well, don't worry about it. Let's not think about that. That's pretty depressing. And in fact, most people on the island, when you ask them, say things like, well, I'm sure it'll fix itself, or the islands will, reform higher, or I don't know, but it's not going to happen. Let's not talk about it.
Wow.
And this goes back to something that Jesse and I have talked about a lot, which is cognitive dissonance. That's when your brain doesn't really want to face something that it knows one way but doesn't want to know another way. So yeah, if you live on these islands, what do you want every day go to bed going, oh my God, we're all going to die, we're all going to have to live somewhere else? No. So you just push it off.
Right.
And that's sad, because if you prepared for it, at least you have a better future, right? I mean, the more planning you do.
Right.
I mean, these 110,000 people are going to have to move somewhere.
Right.
And they're going to have to change their entire lifestyle, I would assume, because I doubt they're going to move to islands as beautiful as the ones they live on.
Right.
So here's the problem. If we stop putting carbon in the air tomorrow,
Yeah.
if we go carbon neutral tomorrow,
Right.
the islands still disappear, because we've already baked in so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
Wow.
It's really sad. But the reason we're doing the show is we have to all start working on solutions to not just stop the carbon that we're putting in the air, but also maybe how to take it out of the air,
Right.
so that we can get our climate back to what we'd like it to be.
Right. There's, and I mean, and also to just fight this cognitive dissonance. Because, these are people who are living on an island that will disappear. Most people are living on solid ground that will not get completely flooded. I mean, a lot of people will, but
And a lot
some
of people
people
can
won't.
move further inland. I mean, these
Right.
people have nowhere to go.
there's no inland.
Right. There's no inland.
There's just now you're just up to your neck in water as opposed to drowning.
Right.
Yeah, we have to.
Well, and I think one way we may get there,
Mm-hmm.
let's listen to Dr. Robert Zubrin. He's one of the founders of the Mars Planetary Society, and he's telling someone here in the audience why we should go to Mars.
So when you originally started talking, you mentioned that you're going to address the why of going to Mars, but you never actually mentioned anything about that in your talk.
All right.
Could you go over that?
Sure. Okay. As I see it, there's 3 reasons why Mars should be the goal of our space program. And in short, it's because Mars is where the science is, it's where the challenge is, and it's where the future is. It's where the science is because Mars, okay, it was once a warm and wet planet. It had liquid water on its surface for more than 1 billion years, which is about 5 times as long as it took life to appear on Earth after there was liquid water here. So if the theory is correct that life is a natural development from chemistry, or if you have liquid water, various elements in sufficient time, life should have appeared on Mars, even if it subsequently went extinct. And if we can go to Mars and find fossils of past life, we'll have proven the development of life is a general phenomenon in the universe. Okay? Or alternatively, if we go to Mars and find plenty of evidence of past bodies of water, but no evidence of fossils of development of life, that could say that the development of life from chemistry is not sort of a natural process that occurs with high probability, but includes elements of freak chance, and we could be alone in the universe. Furthermore, if we can go to Mars and drill, because there's liquid water underground on Mars, reach the groundwater, there could be life there now. And if we can get hold of that and look at it and examine its biological structure and biochemistry, we could find out if life as it exists on Mars is the same as Earth life, because all Earth life at the biochemical level is the same. We all use the same amino acids, the same method of replicating and transmitting information, RNA, DNA, all that. Is that what life has to be? Or could life be very different from that? Are we what life is, or are we just one example drawn from a much vaster tapestry of possibilities? This is real science. This is fundamental questions that thinking men and women have wondered about for thousands of years. The role of life in the universe. This is very different from going to the moon and dating craters in order to produce enough data to get a credible paper to publish in the Journal of Geophysical Research and get tenure. Okay, this is hypothesis-driven critical science. This is the real thing. Second, the challenge, okay? I think societies are like individuals. We grow when we challenge ourselves. We stagnate when we do not. Humans to Mars program would be a tremendously bracing challenge for our society, be tremendously productive, particularly among youth, okay? Humans to Mars program would say to every kid in school today, learn your science and you could be an explorer of a new world. We get millions of scientists, engineers, inventors, technological entrepreneurs, doctors, medical researchers out of that. And that the intellectual capital from that would enormously benefit us. It would dwarf the cost of the program. And then finally, it's the future. Mars is the closest planet that has on it all the resources needed to support life and therefore civilization. If we do what we can do in our time, establish that little Plymouth Rock settlement on Mars, then 500 years from now, there'll be new branches of human civilization on Mars, and I believe throughout nearby interstellar space. But You know, look, I ask any American, what happened in 1492? They'll tell me, well, Columbus sailed in 1492, and that is correct. He did. But that's not the only thing that happened in 1492. In 1492, England and France signed a peace treaty. In 1492, the Borgias took over the papacy. In 1492, Lorenzo de' Medici, the richest man in the world, died. Okay, a lot of things happened. If there had been newspapers in 1492, which there weren't, but if there had, those would have been the headlines, not this Italian weaver's son taking a bunch of ships and sailing off to nowhere. Okay, but Columbus is what we remember, not the Borgias taking over the papacy. Okay? Well, 500 years from now, people are not going to remember which faction came out on top in Iraq or Syria or whatever, and and who was in and who was out. And you know, but they will remember what we do to make their civilization possible. Okay? So this is the most important thing we could do. The most important thing we could do in this time. And if you have it in your power to do something great and important and wonderful, then you should.
That is a rousing speech. I mean, that is exciting. Exactly. I mean, when we get to Mars, if, you know, either we can find life, we could find traces of life, or we find no life, we need to figure this stuff out.
That's one of the biggest scientific questions of all time.
It's
and we
so
can answer it maybe in our lifetime.
Right.
Not even maybe. I mean, if we listen to Elon, I know his timing may be off slightly, but he says that we could have humans on Mars in 2024. So let's say he's off by a few years. Let's say 2030.
Right.
That means
That's
in most
still-
of our lifetimes, we
Right.
could get the answer, because once we've got humans there, we can do these tests.
Right. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it's such a bigger, wider world when you start to think about Mars and all of this. I mean, we're being forced into such a tiny little world. I mean, we're already on this little marble all together, all squeezed together. You know, there's only more of us every day. And I mean, it's just like, why? Why are we constantly being like, oh, you can't go anywhere else? And also being like, oh, there's just nothing we can do about the impending doom that we're bringing to our climate.
Well, let's take his example. He said 500 years ago that, you know, there's this crazy sailor who wanted to go to this new place that no one believed in. That's kind of what we're talking about today.
Exactly.
That would have sounded just as crazy back then. There's this new place that's wonderful. No, there isn't. It's even if it is, you have to cross that giant ocean. You'll never make it.
It's before that. I mean, of Columbus going across, of course, he was completely wrong and thought that he landed in India and all of that stuff. But still, he still talked about it, even though he was
That's the point.
completely wrong. I mean,
It's going
just
back
insane.
500 years. That was the thing that we all talk about today.
Right.
And what if that hadn't happened?
Right.
Well, I guess the Native Americans would have lived peacefully.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a bad example. But there are no Martians that we know of that we're going to displace. So we need to go there, and we need to accept this challenge.
Right.
And we need to stop talking about stupid stuff here on Earth.
Right.
Let's stop talking about Kardashians and other dumb stuff, and let's go to Mars and talk about the important stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us here on our Patreon bonus stories. We're going to head back to the show right now. Thanks for being with us.